All right, so with our handsome Mr. Teddy, hi sir. So I know you guys have some little babes at home, so little humans, as do I. Mine are a little bit older. But I know that, for example, it can be really important to get your dogs comfortable, or puppies, whichever, with all the equipment that is baby and or small human. So for example, a lot of times if your babe has never been conditioned to, for example, a stroller or even other things that people will use like a walker, a cane, a scooter, a motorized wheelchair, all these different types of things can be rather spooky for a puppy, teen, or adult dog. Remember that just because your dog is reacting to something does not mean they have been bombarded or abused by that said thing. There can be times where, because of lack of experience, your dog can actually respond to it as if it was a negative association. So just like with us, if we don't understand what something is, it can seem really overwhelming and dangerous. So, excuse me, when it comes to Mr. T, getting him to feel comfortable and be able to walk nicely with a stroller can be very helpful for safety reasons, because obviously you sometimes do want to go out with the littles, but you also have your puppy to work with. So I would highly recommend to practice stroller walks before even baby is in the stroller. So if there's moments where either dad or mom can take turns rotating through practice, that would be great. Because remember, whatever he works on with one person, he's going to have to then generalize and work with the other person. So just because he's working skills with me, so this is where, when it comes to the day school, that's where the videos are so crucial, because if we don't get to kind of catch up on the content from his videos and his other classmates, you may not really know what to work on or how I work certain skills. So we want to keep things consistent for Mr. T and the rest of his classmates, where if, let's say, we work a certain way in class and then you do it a little different at home, or sometimes one person at home does it a bit different than the other person, then those inconsistencies can create some of that confusion. So obviously, in a safe environment to do so, I sometimes like to start my dog off gear, if it's okay, in a closed off environment like a fence, to work a bit with your dog. So what I mean by that is I like to have the inanimate object be out and about. He did not care at all when I rolled it in before I started filming. So this is one of our really old and battered strollers. It was a hand-me-down, so it's seen better days. But I was like, you know what? We're going to bring it to the center because we're not using it anymore for the little humans. So we can now instead use it for a practice. So Mr. T is doing a great job going and checking it out and bonking his head on it. So obviously not too affronted by it. Yes. So whenever your dog shows interest in an inanimate object, especially if it could be something that he's unsure about or has no real emotional response, I want him to think the stroller is the bringer of good, or that it's nonchalant and non-scary. So we might even have him come check it out. Yes. And I want him just to realize that when the stroller is stationary, it's not going to come get you. I don't want to force him to, for example, if he was scared of this, to lure him towards the stroller to make him get closer and feel that the food is what's giving him that closeness. The problem with that is, and again, you'll see I'm doing a lot of find its just to keep him entertained, is I'm just going to move it a little closer to the middle. So if I was forcing my dog between feeling safe and choosing food, some of them might choose the food, but then when the food is gone, not realize how they got to be so close to the said thing, spooky thing, trigger, whatever it might be. So I would highly recommend is, if he approaches on his own, you could feed him for that, or as he's approaching, go yes, mark the behavior, and then send the food away. Ready, Teddy? Come. So if, let's say, he is thinking about laying in the puddle, which is one of his favorite places after some romping. So he did do a bit of play right before we did some filming. Ready? Teddy, come. He's like, oh my gosh, I'm pooped out. So if, let's say, he's a little bit unsure, I'm just going to go a little closer. Ready? So if your babe doesn't respond the first time, I like to get a little bit closer, get their interest, and then see if I can regain their attention. Ready? I'm just gonna go get him over here. He's loving the mushy puddle on the floor over here. So he and the boys like to spill all the water, which is fine, but then they end up like laying and sort of just hanging out in it. Ready? So he's grabbing the snacks. Good job, Teddy. Oh my gosh, they fell right out. That's okay, we'll find them later. Ready? So if, let's say, we're gonna try and practice a little bit. Ready? with some movement, I like to go ahead and feed the dog for while they're next to me. Ready? So we're doing loose leash walking practice even while off gear. And now we're just including this, again, stroller. So this doesn't seem like a big deal for Mr. T because I'm pretty sure he has seen strollers and carriers and car seats. But the benefit of sometimes practicing, nice job, is that we want him to realize that when you do kind of hang out near the stroller, that we have to be near the handler and sort of towards the leg versus, for example, going up towards the stroller. So I have seen at times where dogs are ahead and they could do this and all of a sudden cut you off, or if they were to see something and they're up near the stroller and the child, if let's say he were to see a bunny over on this side and he's here, he could by accident plow into the stroller and knock it over. So we want to get him, ready Teddy, to be in the groove of being by the handler and be by my leg, not in front of the stroller or by its side. Nice. If he were a smaller dog, it maybe wouldn't be the biggest deal, but notice how like right here, if he were to cut in front, he could injure himself or the others. So right now, because the stroller is empty and he has not yet worked this, it's no big deal if sometimes he is a bit of a drunken sailor and is kind of making his way back and forth around the environment. Ready? Nice. Good job. Yes. It's like this is exhausting. Nice. So, but if, for example, your babe does ever have a hard time, take a break, get him up and moving for a few extra little moments so that way he can expend a little bit of energy and then go back into working your sort of by the leg loose leash walking. Ready? So this could be with me or let's go or heel, whatever slogan you guys would rather use. Your main goal is just keep it consistent. He and Bodhi, the same thing. They can't keep the food in their mouths. I don't know if their jowls are just big enough where they get to the side and it just falls right out. Ready? He gets like maybe every third snack. Yes. Nice. Ready? Yes. So if he starts to get a little bit ahead or a little excited, Teddy, I might get his attention. And again, if he prefers one side versus the other, I like to get them comfortable with both sides because you never know. Maybe you have to switch sides to get them onto one sort of side of the road versus another. Or maybe there's a distraction and you want to be between him and the said distraction. Chewing and walking's hard. And especially when they fall out of your mouth. Yes. Nice. Teddy. Nice. Good job. Ready? He's like almost. Yes. Oh, and there's the one we lost earlier. Good job. Ready? So right now I might be using my hand as almost a visual to get him to hone in on that side. Ready? Teddy. Get him to check back in. Yes. I swear, every other snack is like falling out of his little mouth. Ready? So I'm trying to keep him on this side. Yes. Oh my gosh, now I've got a snack on my leg. That looks really pretty. We'll wash these pants later. Ready? No wonder my dogs love it when I come home from class. They're like, you have been slimed in every way possible. Good job. So let's say for a moment, we'll give him a little breather. He says he's already gotten winded. I would try and practice your loose leash walking skills in general, but then sometimes also include it with the stroller. Make it where maybe your littles might be doing something else and then he has to work on certain skills or check-ins. He's going to go back to his puddle. So maybe for a moment we'll do a little bit with our place behavior because he says he's pooped out and he can't bother doing loop-de-loops right now. Ready? We'll bring him over here. I got the big boy caught so he can fit. Teddy says, I'm pooped out. Ready? Teddy, come. Yes, what a good boy. Good job. Oh my gosh, and it fell out again. That's so weird. Though I can't imagine what it must be like to be a dog and like literally have open sides to your face. Ready? Bed? Nice job. We'll go into our little down. Yes, good work. So let's say we're going to work a little bit with stay. You can also sometimes practice. Let's say, for example, you're trying to just get him to realize that maybe the stroller could be off limits sometimes, in the sense like we're not going to go check it out. Maybe the baby's napping, whatever, and you're doing other things in the yard together. He could then work on going to his place, and maybe you do some things with the littles. So this could be, again, we're going to tell him to stay. And then I might add a little bit of wiggling around the environment like I did previously with some of his stay practice. And again, we just have the stroller. So sometimes we might move the stroller, get him to realize that this is not going to come get him. And that, oh my gosh, there's even snacks from him dropping them on the stroller. Hilarious. Swampy man with his dirty little face, but that's okay. We don't mind. What's a few extra snacks left on a stroller, really? Just crumbs for other friends for next time. So right here, he's still rocking that stay. If he were to break and get up, again, he's not in trouble, but we would reset him up, see if we can get him to be successful being stationary. Nice. Another great one that I've seen other folks do before is there was this little beagle that was working on getting comfortable before baby came home. Obviously, if babies are already home, there's still steps to work on to make sure everybody is still safe. Because of the fact that he is such a big boy, he could by accident knock a little one over. And we just want to make sure that there's a safe puppy zone and a safe little human zone. And at times they could mingle, but always supervised, and very much so sometimes with the dog working certain skills, so they're honed in on something that you're doing. So littles don't become the targets themselves for playmates or for going and bombarding. Yes. He's doing a very nice job. So again, we're just going to move the stroller a little bit. And we're just building in some distractions. So this doesn't mean he couldn't come check out the stroller, but right now he's just working that stay on his place position, working again with that honing in on being stuck. Yes. And I know sadly you guys have the not so cute end, even though I still think he's cute on all the sides, but he's looking in my direction, so you don't get to see his cute little face the whole time, just his caboose. Yes. But oh yeah, so back to that beagle as I was blabbing. I'm just like your dog, I got distracted. So what that mother had done is she, I believe, was also a trainer. So what she ended up doing was every time she would play a baby noise of like crying or distress, not to the point where the dog would get scared. So it wasn't like to try and get them used to sounds of babies if they're having a hard time with certain sounds. But it was every time she would play that sound, it equaled go to your bed, and then the dog would get reinforced for targeting their bed. So then if the baby all of a sudden, when she finally did have her little one, if the baby fussed or got a little overwhelmed, as opposed to the beagle going and bombarding mom with the baby and the newborn in that situation, they could, for example, hear the cry and then go right to their target mat. So it could be one of those things where you can create sort of associations with sounds or certain setups to help your babe choose the behavior you'd rather versus yelling at them for not knowing what to do. So remember that when your babe is, again, giving you a hard time, they're having a hard time. So it could be one of those situations where you may just need to help your dog be successful in a situation where they don't know what to do. So always think, when in doubt, how could I teach my dog something different? Or what would I rather have them do if they cannot handle the setup? So management, like using baby gates, corrals, a separate room, could be a very good starting point, especially if you're not able to hone in on the skills or the setup where everybody would be safe and successful. So management is your best friend, and don't feel that you can't use it because you try to make every moment into a training moment. There's going to be plenty of times where you are not capable nor able to work on everything and everyone, and that's where giving him breaks, which he needs anyway, would be a great moment to create safe bubbles for each. Nice. I'm going to see if I can do, I was going to make it a little harder, and he's like, nope. So, there's maybe a crumb he lost earlier from his jowl. So I'm going to try one more time. Ready? Teddy. Ready? Bed. Oh, there is a jowl snack. Ready? Oh, so tired. So we're going to go into our lovely little, slimy face down. He's like, my brain is melted. You can do it, I swear. He's like, I'm so tired. Good job. So we're going to see if we can get a nice little slimy moment, a little stationary position. If, let's say, your puppy's like, nope, my brain has melted, I need a little break, maybe what we'll do is we'll get all done, we'll get off, and we'll do a couple find its. Ready? So if, let's say, he is turning into a wiggly worm, like I mentioned a little bit for Mr. Bodie. I know for Bodie, at one point, he was having a hard time with his place when he was working it, I believe, outside in the backyard. So if there's moments where your puppy is going to be more successful if you change up your game plan, do it. So even though we might have certain things we'd like to work on, it does not mean that your training plan is set in stone. So there could be moments where, you know what, I wanted to work on place, but maybe Mr. T is not feeling it. Maybe he's having a growth spurt and lying down feels uncomfortable. Or maybe he finally wants to get up and stretch his legs. So giving him moments to choose potentially other skills that still would be valuable, but may not be the exact one you were trying to work on. You trip it on your own legs. Ready? Bed? Nice. He's like, lady, I'm starving. We gotta go into our down. So right now I'm just helping him because he's a little bit fatigued, so I'm just kind of lowering him. Oh, that's a nice downward facing dog. Nice. So we might say stay and see if we can get him just to hang out here while I'm nearby. So remember how I mentioned too earlier for Mr. B, you might have to lower the criteria. So for Mr. B, when he was working the stays at home, he was having a harder time doing a downstay, but did really well in maybe a sit stay for a little bit longer. So you may find that tweaking the position could also help. So while he's working the stay, I'm just feeding him intermittently throughout, just being nearby and building value again and being stuck. The snack fell out of his mouth. You are so tired. So if you lose your babe to the environment, you may have moments where it is towards, again, sort of middle-ish to the end of day. So by this point, Mr. Handsome says his wet puddle is the winner. So, but I would highly recommend that when you're including novelty, like for example, strollers or household items, make sure you're still going at your dog's rate, but also your rate of comfort and safety. So if he has barely worked on loose leash walking, and I'm not saying he hasn't, he's been working it, but let's say your dog is not as fluid with loose leash walking and you instantly want to pair it with a stroller with a little one inside, I don't recommend it. I highly recommend to start off with the skills you'd like him to learn prior to needing them, rehearse it in a few different venues around your home, and then implement the things that you'd like him to get more comfortable with so that way he has the chance to practice before needing it in the real world dynamic. But Mr. T did a very good job with the stroller, even though he's going to drink right up against his wet puddle. So even though he did a great job with the stroller and he was off gear, you'd want to do this on gear and off gear so we can practice both. So that way Mr. Handsome can get really good with all the different dynamics that might be included with a stroller. But we'll give him a little break, maybe sneak him out for a potty, and then work a few more skills. But Mr. T did a really nice job with the novelty of the stroller, or at least my stroller.